I don't think that like having some mental illnesses means that you should come with any sort of special protections.
No, wait. There. Okay, we're gonna have a huge fight about this, because it's very similar to the conversation with Destiny. As I said, if I had it my perfect way, Lav would be allowed to come on to whatever she wants. But you
Right,
can.
but now you are saying treat her differently from everybody else. Now you are saying, before you were saying like, hey, like we can't help it, like, you know, they're just one of us, they're an adult, they have to make their own decisions. But now you're saying make their decisions for them.
I book Lav for 2 hours, and within 15 minutes she starts getting into her Destiny personal drama bullshit, and I have to now kick her from the panel? This makes her literally someone who can't exist in the space like everybody else. If she's gonna misbehave, I should be able to handle the misbehavior. I shouldn't have to fucking.
What do you mean misbehave?
Hold on. So okay.
Would you like an example?
No.
Would you like an example?
Hold on. I gotta parse language. Let me parse language real quick. I know it's okay. Let me parse language real quick.
Just why are you assuming that I think people have a responsibility to put good into the world?
There's a chance that she actually does have that mental illness, but she uses it in a way that is malicious.
Okay, so the moral thing. Normative is a descriptor. Why are you laughing?
Because, please, just Google the word normative.
I conform to the social norm. Shut up, peanuts! I will kill you in a video game! Shut the fuck up! I hate you! Just being autistic is not a reason to mute someone. Now, for example, do you disagree, Tom? Are you serious? I don't disagree. Right now?
We all agree bullying is good.
I think it's an option. Ableism is actually based in positive because you two fucking autists going off on the meta conversation is causing all my goddamn chat to want to Roblox themselves. Yeah. So,
good.
This is why I didn't want to disrupt. Great job,
Tom. What were you wanting to talk to Katee about?
Well, it was both of you in general. I feel like you guys talk about Twitch politics like it's meant to be like a safe space, and like it's supposed to be a place where we can like where everybody should be allowed to be like safe and protected, and I don't think that that's the case. Definitely this is like the worst place for that in the world. I think that that's a ridiculous way of like framing things, is like, oh, because I think safe spaces are good. Just this is not that place that we should like push people who want a safe space or think it's a safe space. We should tell them they like get somewhere.
Well, I've often told people that if you don't want pushback with the things that you say, then you should say them privately. Right. So in a private server, preferably, or something like that. So that was one of my main pushbacks on Lav, because she kept saying, look, I just like to talk. Well, I should be able to say these things without getting blowback. And I was like, no, you don't get to talk shit about people and not get blowback. When you talk shit about people, especially in a public space, you do get blowback, and that's expected. That's the way it works. And she kept trying to insist at one point that no, they don't get to give her blowback for that. I'm like, yes, if you start talking shit about somebody, you start name dropping, yes, that they have the opportunity to defend themselves, and also their parasocial audience are probably also going to feel obligated to defend them as well, which I wish they wouldn't do, but it happens in this space. So it's kind of a given. Like you shouldn't deserve a safe space from that. Talk shit, get hit kind of thing is sort of a thing that you can expect in this space, because it's a public space, it's a critiquing space, it's a space of contention, and it's a space of polarizing positions. So you do need to know what you're getting into. The safe spaces should be in like your little private servers here and there in your private spaces.
That's like the mentality.
You made a rule change, didn't you, in your server? Sorry, this is actually super relevant. You made a rule change like within the last 24 hours in your server, did you not? Or
well,
like
it was
a
always my
of your rules, right? Like a reclarification, a restatement of.
Yeah, I was very pissed. I had some negative experiences on my Discord, and I thought I made it very clear what I was going for, and if I needed to make that reclarification, then that's fine, whatever. So yeah,
that mentality.
So it's the only reason I bring it up is I think what it's prescient with what Zonia's saying is that like you have created maybe not a wholly quote unquote safe space, but you're creating a place that is in fact safer for people to interact in than say your average public internet space, right?
Yeah,
You
and
cut out for
I
a second.
said so.
You even acknowledged
And
it. Yeah. So that's a
yeah,
good thing. So you're kind of
yeah,
you're representing what you want to see change.
exactly. I'm
Of
sitting on my high
course.
horse here, being very high horsey like, you know.
Of course,
But-
your
But I'm
public
not
server.
attacking. I'm saying like this is a good
No,
thing.
no,
You're approaching it the appropriate way.
I'm making light of myself. It's like, but yeah.
Well,
Oh, I thought
also
you were
one
pretty
thing,
dark,
one
so.
caveat to keep in mind though is that anybody can join your server. So anything said in your server that is inflammatory to people outside of the server can easily be taken out, and then people can, it could be seen by random people, which means that that person may feel obligated to defend themselves if somebody's talking trash about them in your
That's
server.
okay. I mean, I'm not protecting people from outside my server. I'm only make sure that the people inside my server adhere to my version of human decency. That is all I care about. It's my server. So.
Yeah. So that would be like a safe space for people to engage in there, but not necessarily protected from blowback of that things are said are in there.
It's also not a safe space. It's not. We have a token conservative, and I shit on him constantly. It's not a safe space. Everyone gets bullied.
For the one you disagree with.
Yeah. Yeah. The minority doesn't get the protections.
I bully everyone on my
Shocker.
server, and they have to take it. Otherwise, they can leave. That is the rules of my server. That is it, you know?
Well, so why do you
That
take
rule
issue with
sucks.
me saying that you're making it sound like this should be a safe space? Like I think you're
found
going to
it
disagree
interesting.
with that you I don't think that you actually would call it a safe space, but I think that the way that you're framing this as though it should be a safe space for people.
Okay, so Tom, I think why I immediately like head palmed once you said that is for two reasons. First of all, Zonia talks about being black-pilled. I think that what you and I would define as a safe space is just a very different definition. So I think that even if a place isn't a safe place, there is certain levels of what I'd consider ethical human conduct that I'd want seen, even if it's not a safe space. I don't think something being not a safe space, meaning that it's like the gladiator arena. Now, if you want to say this is the gladiator arena, fine, I can have that discussion. But there's a big distinction between this is a safe space and an echo chamber, and between we can still disagree with each other, but how about don't slur at each other, you know?
Okay, so that is where I was going to take it. I was going to say, like, generally we'll say, yeah, you shouldn't go like tackle people. But if you're on a football field, we all kind of agree to that ahead of time, that like, I'm not going to go sue you for assault if you come tackle me. I think this is blood sports. I think that we all kind of agree that we're all going to go at each other's heads. We're all going to be, pretty inflammatory. And I think that if you, I don't think that like having some mental illnesses means that you should come with any sort of special protections.
No, wait. There. Okay. We will engage with the mental health thing. Just very quickly, to generally specify. Do you feel like Twitch poll is a football arena?
I'm saying I think it's like what you agree to as you come in, like football, yeah.
Okay, but in this analogy, so my critique is that I'm saying, you guys, we are all on like the street right now, so we don't owe each other anything, but we're on the street. And there are consequences to engaging with each other, but you all keep tackling each other, and then you're saying, what, this is a football arena? And I'm saying, no, we're on the street, actually. And maybe you disagree with that, and then we can have that discussion, right? But that is the distinction I'm drawing. Do you get where I'm going with this?
I am, yeah, I do. Like that is what I'm saying. That's why I started off by saying, like, when you say that, I could say that this is a gladiator arena. I'm saying, yes, I do think it is a gladiator arena. I would say it's kind of like an agreement to go play football. Like, generally, we would say ethically, you shouldn't go tackle people. But when you're in this space, like, we all kind of agree that you can come tackle me. You can come assault me. You can come hurt me. I would say in this space, we all kind of have these agreements ahead of time that this is blood sports. We are going to go at each other's heads, and we do have a different, it's like agreed to ethics.
Then I need to inquire on that. where are the lines? Because when I am on my whatever, I need you to tell me where the field ends and where it starts, right? Because you and I, Tom, we've this is our second time interactions, and we also DM, right? And I believe we both have a certain conduct that we both like to have. So while I do agree that when I engage with you, I do take into account that it might get heated, I don't expect you to start telling me to burn in an oven, right? Even though in a blood sports type situation, someone might feel like that's an appropriate dig to make. So in this space that is the football field, I'm willing to say there is a football field, but it is on the greater context of like a general sports arena, and like you agree to enter certain part of the sport arena, you know, with some players, but you're not always on the football field. Sometimes you're playing gymnastics, but you're also a football player, you know? I feel like that's a much more accurate representation of because this is a very big space.
Yeah.
So can I kind of tackle that, Katie? I think a more simplistic way of what you're saying is that like this stuff is all situational, right? You shouldn't. There's no blanket way to describe how we're going to handle these situations. So for example, again, I'll just stick with you and I because it's a very simple example. The very first time we interacted, you didn't know me. I came in on an after panel. I perceived you as being kind of bitchy. So the next time I met you, that's the fucking energy I hit you with, right? That's just how I read the field. I felt like your energy was shit. I didn't like your energy. I gave you shit energy back. You gave me really good energy in response to my shit energy, which I thought was very mature. And so I responded with really good energy therein.
Yeah.
However, I think that that's just indicative that I'm reading the situation as it goes, and I think that is the actual answer. Is like there's no smooth answer, there's no simple answer, there's no sexy answer. It's a complicated situation. You have to read social dynamics, and if you're not reading them well, maybe that's attributed to mental illness or not.
But that's my
maybe
critique,
this isn't the space for you.
Okay, reading is fine, but what I have issue with is that like I don't think that someone would argue that me coming in here to talk to Zonia is anywhere blood sports. I don't think I'm generally blood sports, and I know that Zonia isn't unless she's in the mood for it, the same way as me. So I don't think any reasonable person would call the conversation that me and Zonia had blood sports. So if then someone came in super hot, right off like a demon mama debate.
Hot, I'm right here.
Shut up. And like started flinging retarded claims at us and being totally blood sportsy, and then I'll tell them, hey, this is quite inappropriate for the situation. I don't think they get to go, well, this is the space. This is what you signed up for. No, bitch. No, it isn't. Get the fuck out.
Yeah,
you know?
I kind of think you do. I kind of think you do. You are.
Yeah, then we disagree on that.
Yeah.
I don't think you get in. You just said that you have to read the situation. So I don't think people who want to engage in shitty, unethical behavior get to always come around and say that when other rules of engagement has been established. No, actually, this place is blood sports.
No. So like if you're invited to a panel and you want, like, that's not how that panel is organized. Of course not, right? Like, again,
that's what I'm saying.
Appropriate situational behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that goes into it. Like, it's a progressive space in the first place, so there's obviously like a lot of progressive beliefs, but you also have a lot of people in the audience who are who don't have names or faces to them. You also have a bunch of gamers who come from gamer culture where we all grew up on Xbox Live talking about each other's moms. So there are lines, and normally those lines are going to be decided within the court of public opinion. And so you coming in and like critiquing people for the way that they interact with one another, that is part of it. But I have trouble with the expectation of that being the case in the first place.
Wait, but do you think that me critiquing something and saying, I don't think this is useful for the space is me having an expectation? It's how I want to see the space.
Yeah, so yes, I think that the way that you guys were talking about it earlier is as though, like, so you mentioned ethics when I first brought this up. You're kind of talking about this as though it's the way it ought to have been already. And so when you say, like, this is the way you want to see the space, what does that mean? Like, what what is like the broader idea? Is that like general morals and ethics should apply to this space like they do out in the streets?
So I think that saying general, I don't know how far back you watched this conversation, but I did the whole, like, if I clicked my finger, I would make this space X way. But we said that that's a utopia, that's not relevant. I think what's reasonable to do is take individual creators, see what their values are, and then react appropriately. So the reason why this whole conversation even happened is because I saw Zonia interact with Lav, and I was like, I don't feel like this behavior from Zonia is indicative to the kind of person and the type of values I think Zonia wants to promote in this space. So I am confused. I want to talk to Zonia about it. For example, a lot of my critiques regarding Destiny are not about whether his values or ethics. It's about, I believe that with the size of your platform, you have certain ethical responsibilities. And he might say, I disagree with you. And I might say, it's fine that you disagree. I still have those critiques, right? Mm-hmm. So those are like the positions that I'm holding.
Okay, so I agree with that then. Okay, so then for somebody who is mentally ill, like, we're going to go ahead and say that this is going to be a bit more blood sportsy, but with some ethics, right? So I watched you and Kelly Jean and Mindwaves and Destiny talk the other day.
Yikes.
Okay, so would you say that the way that you interacted with them, is that part of you pushing the way that you want to see everybody interact within the space, or is that an anomaly?
Blood sports. That was my version of blood sports. That's okay. Like when people say blood sports, I'm like being shitty to other people, right? Uh-huh. That's what blood sports is.
Right. So is that an anomaly, or is that you feeling like you have to interact in that way in order to engage because that's the way they are interacting?
I feel like it's absolutely an anomaly in the sense that I've had multiple conversations with Destiny where he even went a bit. I actually found it quite annoying when he kept saying I'm debate broing this. Like he has any right to call anyone else for being a debate bro. So I just found that to be like interesting.
Debate bro in this space has a different connotation to it.
He was saying debate brained, and that you were so drilled down on sort of like the hyper nuance of the thing, but not really getting to any kind of point for him, or not moving the conversation forward.
That's
so that's
true.
what he's saying.
He never does that either. Okay.
That was what he's saying at the time, right? So he was trying to, and so like part of the problem is that I think a lot of times when somebody is really rigidly holding to their position, like you were, you kind of had like a dogmatic position. I would argue, this is your position, and this is what you wanted to convince him of, or at least get him to understand. Yes. You'll get, because of the fact that the person isn't really understanding your position or moving on their position, people will then go and they'll be like, okay, well, let's drill down more on the finer mechanics of why it is that I hold this position. And then maybe you'll understand me. But then the problem is, as you do that, like recursion down into the finer mechanics of your position to try to convince them, it's not allowing the conversation to move forward, because really the reality is that you should probably both agree to disagree, and then one person should adopt the other person's framing just to carry the conversation forward instead of trying to
I've already addressed it. It just wasn't possible because I couldn't have conceded this to move forward, because that was my whole point, and Destiny wouldn't have done that because that makes him the loser of that debate. Also, as I said before, if it was a one-on-one, it would have been a completely different situation. And that is also why I'm saying it's an anomaly. Usually when I talk to Destiny, I feel like both like pretty cordial, pretty chill. I don't even feel like I was too egregious towards like him. I was like shitting on Mindwaves though. Like, fuck that guy. I don't like him. So yeah, absolutely.
Similar levels of like so soft.
What?
Nice.
What?
Nothing. Okay. I just decided I don't want to talk about this.
Okay, cool. Well, that was a cool contribution then. So yeah, I was absolutely shitty to mind waves. It was absolutely like a bloodbath, blood sports, the whole shebang thing. I even admitted that I was totally memeing at some point. It was very enjoyable to see mind waves like lose his mind as me and Kelly were just like picking on him for every little thing. I enjoyed that very much. But that's obviously an anomaly. Yeah, but if there was any space to have that type of interaction, I believe that would be like on a Destiny platform, or like a Dylan, like what was his panel show in the past?
Yeah,
the hippy dippy thing. Yeah, something like that. I don't talk like that on my own stream. I don't talk like that to Zonia. I don't even talk to Destiny like that one-on-one. I think that's pretty clear from anyone who watched me talk. You know.
So I agree. Like when I asked you if that's an anomaly, or if you felt like you needed to engage that way in order to have your voice heard in that conversation, it sounds like you're saying both. Is that correct? You're saying it's an anomaly, but also like you felt like you needed to engage that way. Not to have your voice heard, but you felt like you needed to engage that way because that was the atmosphere.
Not because that was the atmosphere, is because I don't believe that me coming at it from a more nuanced, acquiescing place would have done any good to my position. This was something I had to go really hard on, not just to make sure that I get it across the way I wanted it. I don't feel like I would have gotten the responses that I've got, like positive or negative, if I would have chosen to engage differently. For example, there were not large parts, but there were a lot of times where Kelly was talking, and I could have interjected and I could have spoken over her, but I don't like doing that. So those are the instances where my conduct kind of like reverted to my ethical line of like, I rather not speak over people. But obviously I was annoyed. I wanted to make my own points. I felt like, Kelly, you're ruining our argument for us. But I didn't want to speak over her, you know? So even in that conversation, there were people I was willing to be ethical towards and people I was not. You know?
Okay.
Sometimes you just gotta charge over people, though. By the way, sometimes you just be like,
I know that's what.
Like when you're telling me to shut up, shut the fuck up, Katie.
Yeah.
That's what people are telling me, and sometimes I'm willing to do it, and sometimes I don't. And when I don't, it comes to my detriment. But I'm willing to take that hit. You know, like that's just how it is.
By the way, I gotta go to the bathroom. You guys continue the conversation, so I'll be back in a minute.
So I completely agree with you. And that's kind of the point that I was making earlier when I'm talking about the fact that there's anonymous chatters who we're talking to. We bring them on stream and in the Discord. And then also the type of space that this is, where it's a bunch of gamers who talk the way that they do and engage the way that they do. I think that eventually we all just kind of decided this is the way that we have to engage in order to engage, and sometimes it ends up being a really nice, calm conversation where we, like you and I had the other day, or like it seems like most of Destiny's conversations turn out that way these days. But sometimes it's not, and I think that a space like this is not a good space for somebody who is. I don't want to say mentally ill, because the mental illness in and of itself is not the problem. It's somebody who is unstably mentally ill. Yes, it's when they are unstable, this is not a good place for them to engage. And I think most of us agree on this, and we kind of just agree that they shouldn't be here. But there's not a good way to get them out of the space.
Okay, so let me tell you, and we're gonna have a huge fight about this, because it's very similar to the conversation with Destiny. Whether I think someone should or should not do something does not mean that I am willing to enforce my will on them. Do I think that someone who is mentally unwell should engage in behaviors that are making them more mentally unwell? Of course not. The problem is, I am not their mother or their guardian. All I know is that they are an adult that have the right to consent and the right to make their own decisions. So, when that is the case, I will not be I would not be saying what I think and what I think is crazy shit, like this person is doing a behavior that I think is bad. Therefore, they shouldn't do it because I decided so. I think that is a bizarre way to engage with other adults. So, if a mentally ill person who is unstable and unwell are choosing to engage with the space, I cannot control them, nor am I interested in controlling them because it's none of my fucking damn business. And even if I want to control them, I couldn't. So all I can control is my behavior. Mm-hmm. And in my behavior, I prefer not to bully a person that I feel is mentally unstable. I prefer to ignore them. That is all I'm saying, you know?
I completely agree with you. And so this is exactly where I was going, is that they are adults. They have to make their own decisions. And so in the end, we're just going to engage with them the way that we engage with literally everybody else. And lots of times this means that because they are unstable, it's going to ramp up times 1,000 very quickly because they are unstable. And so that engagement just turns into what it turns into, like it did with Lav and Zonia, or like it did with, I'm not going to say names, but many other people in the past. Yeah. And I feel like, that is my main point, is that, yes, like we end up treating them just like everybody else. And this ends up being called ableism, but it's like there's not much else we can do. We either all ignore them together, which just that's not gonna, I don't think that that's gonna do anything, or we all engage with them and treat them like literally anybody else, and it turns into
so I think the reason why it's called ableism is not because we choose to talk to people who are mentally unstable. That is not why it's ableist. That's just like being a human being. I don't necessarily think mentally ill people should be relegated from the space, right? As I said, if I had it my perfect way, Lav would be allowed to come on to whatever she wants. But once she starts getting into some shit, that's when she's out. Not because I care about her, but because I take it as an aggressing towards my personal boundaries with her. I'm not interested in those stories. And if she can't have a conversation without that, then she will be removed. And the expectation is, wait. And the expectation is, well, she should never come in the first place. And I'm saying, sure, but you can't make that happen. Well, you
right,
can.
But now you are saying treat her differently from everybody else. Now you are saying, before you were saying like, hey, like we can't help it, like, you know, they're just one of us, they're an adult, they have to make their own decisions. But now you're saying make their decisions for them. But you said I can't force them to do anything. Now you're saying force them off the call.
I have a bigger issue with it. Hold on.
There's a separation that I'm making here. Yeah,
I have a bigger issue with this. I think that the way you're putting a very undue burden on the person that would theoretically be having a conversation with Lav. It is not. So let's say I start hosting panels, okay? And in the course of doing so, I book Lav to be on a panel. And I book Lav for 2 hours, and within 15 minutes, she starts getting into her Destiny personal drama bullshit. And I have to now kick her from the panel. This makes her literally someone who can't exist in the space like everybody else. You're creating another problem.
You don't have to kick her from the panel. You can leave her on the panel and yell at her. If that makes you feel better, if that makes your dick feels larger, you can do that. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Like, I'm baffled.
Well, no, I shouldn't have to deal with, like, if she's going to misbehave, I should be able to handle the misbehavior. I shouldn't have to fucking handle her.
What do you mean misbehave?
If she's going to fucking act out of pocket and exhibit what she is going to claim are the symptoms of her mental health, which they aren't, they're just her using fucking shit to excuse her behavior, her shitty behavior. If she engages in it, I'm not just gonna fucking. Yeah, I think that's crazy to think that, like, the people engaging with her.
I think you don't understand what I'm saying, which is really frustrating.
No, I do understand it. Holy, you're saying that if she starts to go down that path, it is on the responsibility of the person engaging with her to, like, silence her, mute her, cut her off, whatever. So you use Wick specifically earlier as an example. You would say he should kick her from the panel.
That's what we should do, not that it's your responsibility to do so. I think the most ethical path forward.
That's the same
thing.
Makes
it our responsibility.
Oh my god.
Those are the same things.
Okay, I understand that for you people that's the same thing. That is not the same thing for me. I think there are many things that you should do, but it's not your responsibility to do them.
Wait. Hold on. So, okay.
Would you like an example?
No. Hold on. I gotta parse
Let me give you an
language.
example.
Let me parse
Your
language
light
real
just went out,
quick.
Tom.
I know, it's okay. Let me
me
parse
give you an
language
example,
real quick.
Tom.
Just let me parse this real quick, please. Okay. So to say
You mean my
something
example.
would be good if you did it, right? So if I hand money to a homeless person as I'm walking
Did I
down
say
the road,
it was okay to
that
bully
would
her out of
be
the space? All right.
good.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I'm muted. Sorry.
It would be good if I handed the homeless person money, right?
Nobody
But
is.
nobody would say I should hand the homeless person money, because now you're saying I ought to do that, and that is my responsibility to hand the homeless person money. You are saying you should mute them, meaning you are saying you ought to mute them, meaning you are saying it is your moral responsibility to do this.
So you think when I say you should donate to charity, I'm saying it's your responsibility to donate to charity?
Yes.
Yes, you are absolutely implying a moral imperative of some variety. You're
So
not
if you
saying
say it would be
it's
good
like,
if you did it,
it's not the same
then
as saying like you should get crazy string and spray your wife. Like that's not the same thing, right? Like you're not
It's
making a
not?
silly
Why not?
suggestion because you're not making a silly suggestion. You're making like a prescriptive thing that someone should do to put good into the world. That's a completely different thing than just
Why
like,
why are you assuming that I think people have a responsibility to put good into the world?
from the
Katie,
statement that you just said.
Your language belies it. Like I don't have to make assumptions. You're giving me everything I need with your language, and if you can't get that, like that's really not a me issue.
Okay, Parallax. If I'm explaining to you how I perceive the reality, and you're saying, well, that's not my problem, then it's fine, but then you can't understand me. If you don't want to understand me, that's fine. You don't have to.
You're not understanding something very, very simple, and I don't know how to work around that.
Hold on. Yes,
You are
I'm just
saying
explaining
something
the
that's
language
leading to a
when
very
you
natural
use
conclusion.
a word. I'm just explaining that it is analogous to these other words, and so I'm only saying that if you said this would be good versus you should, these are very different statements, and it sounds like you're trying to say it would be good if you did this, not that you should do it, right?
Okay. So I think the dissonance, first of all, I will take this on board. This is how I speak because I never come out of the position that people have a responsibility to do good for the world. I just don't have that frame of reference. So saying someone should doesn't imply that I think they have a responsibility to do good. But I take it on board that most people do think that's an issue. Therefore, from now on, I'll try to exchange saying you should with it would be good. Problem solved?
Yes.
I think
just
it would be better, yeah.
Yes, just that, like, for when you say I don't think people have a responsibility to do good, I would assume that you would say like, you know, if you know somebody's going to murder a bunch of people at a school tomorrow, you should call the cops ahead of time, right? You would probably have that like imperative that they should go do something good in that case. There are times
if they
where
have that value, yeah.
Well,
they might not have that value.
Right, but we're saying you are making the statement, meaning you have the value to say that they should.
No. But my statements about what other people should do is dependent on their value systems.
So you don't believe in morals?
I believe in my morals.
Right. Well, morals are how we should interact with one another. It's how we should engage with one another. And
I have ideas about what would be good for us to do. What we should do is dependent on individuals' moral systems that aren't mine.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Right. Yeah. So okay. So I'm glad I cleared that up because that was like the main issue that I came in here with is that like this ought to be a safe space, whereas instead you're saying it would be good if we like practiced some of these principles, but you don't think it's anybody's responsibility to do so.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I think there's it should be a dangerous space.
What?
I think it should be a dangerous space.
I mean, it is a dangerous space, so you already have that.
Well, I mean, I've talked about, you and
I
I
love
talked
it.
about this last time. I think it's really cool that a space like this exists in a way where like there's a lot less boundaries on it, in the, not only in the way that we interact, but in the way, in the things that we can say to one another, so that there's a lot more to explore. And there's a lot more, like I can tell you, if I didn't engage with Nazis, there's a lot of things that I'd be wrong on. There's like, they have taught me a lot of things that I just turned out to be insanely wrong on. And I'm glad that I engaged with them on these things.
I want to ask, but I don't want to ask, you know?
But I'm happy, like, that you came to clarify, because I do have a really hard time with, communicating what I want properly, because the way I use language is slightly different, because there are a lot of very core premises that the majority of people like intuitively share, and I don't have those, and because of that, I think there's sometimes dissonance between how I talk and what other people hear. So it's really useful for me to have people like clarify that with me, so I can use language that helps me facilitate my positions better. It's just the concept of, I think people should act by my moral standards, is like beyond my grasp. So I can't imagine people having that perspective. So it's like, I think that makes sense. It's like so I appreciate it. I think that's good.
Okay. Yeah, that was I guess, yeah, that, I think that clears up everything then. Because, yeah, that was the most confusing part for me. Because, like, yeah, when we say a prescription, or like somebody should do something, it's like you're prescribing it, saying like you ought to do this thing. And
well, can I then ask a further question for like rhetoric improvement? If I say I think it'd be good to do X, wouldn't that trigger the same spot in people where basically I'm calling them a bad person if they don't do X?
I think if you said, wouldn't it be better if you did X?
We don't interpret it as moral good. No, I think even good's fine. We don't interpret it as moral good. So when you say like something is good, like food can be good, right? A movie can be good. These are all things that, like, the way we use language, these are really normal ways to receive the word good. So if you say, I think it would be good. Yeah, like, so like if my wife says, hey, this Sunday, do you want to like fucking take our daughter to the zoo and then go grocery shopping? I'm like, yeah, that's good. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a very normal way to use the word. So if you say, I think it would be good to do this thing, nobody's going to say like good as in the opposite is bad. Whereas when you say,
but I am saying like, I believe my ethical framework is superior to yours, and you should, it would be good if you used mine.
If it's your framework, you obviously think it's superior. Otherwise, you would adopt another framework.
I agree.
My favorite part about talking. It's me.
What?
He wants to talk.
I love when I get to finish my sentences. That's my favorite part about talking, is me.
No, it sucks. Stop it. Any thoughts on what just happened?
I don't know. I had you guys deafened for a while. I was dealing with some stuff in my chat.
Parallax wants to finish his statement.
Do you want to summarize for me or something real quick?
Katie's wrong.
Katie just got wrecked. Totally conceded.
To summarize, I think I potentially need to pursue that autism diagnosis, and go to a proper professional. But I don't know if I'll get it. I'm just wondering.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's where I was going with this, is when you're saying how you should interact with mentally ill people, I was about to start saying, okay, so like President Sunday, Vosh, like these people are autistic, so should we mute them when they start acting autistic and start doing things like
President Sunday is unironically autistic?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I'm so sorry. I am well known for diagnosing people on stream, so this is
I think it'd be good if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's got a dose of the tisms. I don't mind saying it.
Yes, I would assume he's on the spectrum, but it's just an assumption. Yeah. My bad.
Well,
I'm just baffled. Like, do you think then? Sorry, Sonia. It's fine.
I was going to say something that I think is that we're kind of we sort of straddle this line of like, we're not good enough. We don't know what we're talking about. We can't diagnose somebody. And likewise, we can't undiagnose somebody or really truly determine whether or not, they're like, when I say that I don't think Mav has a mental illness, I'm going just based on simple observation of a pattern of behavior that she exhibits, but I'm no professional.
Right.
I can't go and say definitively that she doesn't have it.
Yes.
But what I do is I observe this pattern of behavior. Yep. I observe this pattern of behavior, and I observe the things that she does in response to the pushback she gets from the pattern of behavior. And I go in and I say, okay, I can clearly tell that she is at the very least using this as a shield, and she doesn't tend to use it in any other context other than just a shield. So that's reason enough for me to go and say, I'm going to attack that shield. So it's an inconvenient shield for you, and so that you can't use that as a shield anymore. And so that's sort of my approach to mitigate that behavior or that loop that is destructive to discourse, destructive to herself, even destructive to kind of anything cohesive. So, sure is marketable as hell and content like you wouldn't believe. But I want to take away that shield or that weapon from that person, even if like, we could say that there's a chance that she actually does have that mental illness, but she uses it in a way that is malicious. And so,
which is also a vibe check.
Yeah, and so I try to take that away from her so she doesn't have the power of that anymore.
So, Tom, I found it quite interesting that you said, like, let's take the example of Vosh that has autism. Okay. I don't think, as I said earlier, I don't think relegating people who have certain disorders and issues from the space is a legitimate thing to do. I don't think you should mute Vosh. I think that if you have a conversation with Vosh and you have a disagreement, kind of like what just happened now. You could have muted me because you said, you don't understand how to use language. I don't understand the language you're using. You're being stupid. Mute, right? Instead, you and I are both adults, and we had a quick conversation when we clarified, and now we're both on the same page, and one of us, in this case me, because I'm willing to admit that I might not be the normative case here, adjust my language to further understand. So, I believe that
Cool story.
We lost her again. She'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, so Zonia, what you missed is we had to designate we had to put a difference between it would be good to do X versus you should do X. That was kind of where our disagreement came in. Sorry, Katie, finish what you were saying.
All good. So, and in other times, the normative person would choose to accommodate the non-normative person. So in cases of like something else that...
I'm sorry, the normal person?
Normative, not normal.
So the moral person?
No, normative as in they are... How do I explain normative? I don't feel like...
neurotypical versus neurodivergent? Is that what you mean by normative?
Yeah, or someone who has a mental illness versus someone who doesn't have a mental illness. Okay. A normative person in disability speech would just be like, if you're in a wheelchair and someone else isn't, most people aren't, so their normative person is the one who's not in a wheelchair, right?
So like the normative person would be Tom, and the not so normative person would be Parallax, right? That's the example.
Wait a minute.
Okay, so just to quickly...
I just got Walmart scootered. I do just
want to, like, yes, a normative, again, is, like, normally going to refer to a moral behavior.
No. Normative is just that...
I didn't run.
That is not true. Normative is not a moral.
We know I didn't run. Look at me.
Normative is I don't know if I call it scientific.
Normative means that it's coming from like social norms, and that's what morals are social norms.
No, that is not what normative means.
She's talking about sane people versus insane people.
I understand, and that's why I'm saying is that again. I would in the future. I would come in with the understanding that normative does mean like it's a moral statement. If you make a normative statement, it means you're making a moral statement based on social norms.
Tom. So
yes,
the reason why I say normative and not normal is because I believe the word normal is highly tied to what society deems okay and not okay. So the moral thing. Normative is a descriptor. Why are you laughing?
Because please just Google the word normative. It means that it comes from social norms. Okay, then read it to me and tell me it doesn't come from social norms. Please tell me that's what. Read it. You said you Googled it. Read to me what it says.
Hang on. Okay, we have slipped into the unfathomable depths of the meta conversation. And meta conversations. Look, if you guys care about like mental health and suicide rates, we can chalk up the rising suicide rates to the rise of meta conversations in political discourse.
Hold on, okay? No. It's not. I'm not trying to get into a meta conversation.
Each other.
Hold on, I'm not trying to get into a meta conversation.
Get out of this. This is a dark spiral. You will not recover from this. This will destroy your minds, and then my audience will commit suicide. I do not want that. I'm trying to save these people.
I don't want to get into these people. I don't want to get into a meta conversation.
You guys are trying to push them over the edge.
I'm trying to explain that like so the disagreement in the first place came from the way that she was using a word versus how everybody else is going to interpret that word. And so I'm saying again, if you're going to use the word normative,
I Googled it.
Okay, and so tell me what the definition is.
No, I Googled the difference between normative and normal, and this is what I got. So just look at that and maybe because I don't
hold on. I'm not saying that normative and normal are the same thing. I'm saying normative refers to social norms, which is normally going to be like a social expectation. It's going to be a moral statement most of the time. So a normative statement is normally a moral statement.
But I'm not making a normative statement. I'm saying someone is normative. So they are just
they're more likely to be the norm is what you mean.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Did you read the distinction between normal and normative?
No, did you post it somewhere?
Yeah. It says normal refers to which conforms to norms. So while norms are the rules that guide our behavior, normal is the act of abiding by them. Normative refers to what we perceive as normal or what we think should be normal, regardless of whether it actually is.
So you see the word should is in there?
Yes.
Okay, so we went over before. Should is a moral ought to. And so that's what I'm saying, is that when you say normative, people are taking this as a moral statement to say this ought to be this way. And so when you say somebody...
But the definition I read just implies that that's not actually what it means.
So it says, however, refers to what we perceive as normal or what we think should be normal.
Yes, but it can also be what we perceive as normal, right? So it's either or, both options are okay.
Sure.
So we're both correct?
Yes.
Guys, my audience, they are dropping like flies. They're committing suicide in real time here. Okay. You guys got to get out of the meta conversation.
Finish your statement. Go ahead.
You got to do this. You got to save me. Okay. If you don't care about your audiences, at least care about mine.
You need to understand, this is like my favorite part of discourse. I love the meta. It's what
I don't care about the meta. It's the linguistics that I'm going to get a bit more anal about. But it's, go ahead.
I disavow. Okay. I disavow. I don't know her.
Okay, so all I'm saying is that in our example, I conform to the social norm. Shut up, Peanuts! I will kill you in a video game! Shut the fuck up! I hate you! Okay.
Not on your life.
Okay, so in our example, I conform to the social norm. You said, hey, the social norm is when you say should, this is what people are saying. So I said, okay, sure.
Okay.
In other cases, the social norm is that people aren't in a wheelchair. That is a norm that we have. Most people are not in a wheelchair.
Right.
But society can decide to accommodate someone who is outside the norm. Right?
Okay.
So sometimes you'll do this and sometimes you'll do this. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so Vosh versus a normative person. Go ahead.
Okay, so depending on what...
Boring.
You can leave.
I'm fucking with you, Katie. That's what I live for.
So Vosh versus a normal person. So you give me the scenario where Vosh should be muted. Because you said we should mute Vosh. So when? Why? For what reason?
Well, because earlier you were saying that somebody with a mental illness comes on the stream. The person who's the host has... okay. I have to reframe this because originally it came off as though they have a responsibility to do this. So you're saying it would be better if they muted this person. And so so the line of thought that I was going to go down... It would be better
if they kicked them, but yeah.
Yeah, and so the line of thought that I was going to go down is like, you know, people who are autistic can be very unself-aware and make fools of themselves sometimes and act very... I don't know how to say it outside of very autistic, and autistic. It seems like yes, the line of logic that I was going to go down is, okay, so you're going to say that we ought to mute Vosh in these cases, but yeah.
No, so I think maybe there was just a misunderstanding. The example that we gave was specifically about if we don't want Lav to go on people's stream and say a bunch of crazy allegations, if we're not okay with it and we have her on their stream, then I think it'd be good that if that's something that you don't want her to do and you can't control her behavior, then if she does that, you kick her. That is what I was saying. So just being autistic is not a reason to mute someone. Now, for example, do you disagree, Tom? Are you serious? I don't disagree,
but I'm saying, you're saying, hey, like when the bad part of their mental illness comes out, that's when you should mute them, or it would be good to mute them.
That's not what I'm saying, Tom. I'm saying when the part of their mental illness that you want them to mitigate and they're not mitigating it, you can enforce your own boundary and not let them hurt you. Because obviously, they're not supposed to be hurting you, but if they're hurting you, then they're having a hard time not doing that, correct?
But if Lav does that on my stream, it's going to be beneficial to me. It's not going to hurt me.
Okay, well, if that's how you feel, then you'd want her to bring up this personal stuff, would you not?
Right, but I thought that's what you were pushing back against, is the fact that people are going to profit off of her mental illness, and so they should mute her so that she's not making a fool of themselves and everybody's benefiting off of it.
What I was talking about with Zonia was specifically that Zonia saying that we want to protect the community. Protecting Lav is a different story.
So how would that hurt the community?
I argued that
Zonia will tell you. I'll be right back.
That at first, both people would have been considered, the community and her, but because of the fact that she's done so much damage, that it behooves us to find a way to end that loop. Whether or not we want to do that through bullying, I'm not really sure. But there are people like, like Kelly.
What damage do you think she's done?
Like Kelly and Pixie. Well, for instance, Kelly, Pixie, and Madame Genevieve, all three of them, women tend to suffer a lot more of the backlash from these kinds of allegations about sleeping with certain people in the space or sleeping their way to the top, etc. And even when those allegations get proved wrong, it doesn't matter. The rumors stick around indefinitely, and it just continues to spread and will continue to be weaponized against them. And so those are the examples that I give. Like, that's the kind of damage that Lav does in this space. Like, I don't care about the Hassans or the Destinies, really, because they can both handle themselves. They're big boys. They're both men. They got a lot of power. They got attorneys. They got everything that they need, right? So these smaller creators that are also women, who tend to be disproportionately targeted because of these types of things, that's damage that's done. And that's the kind of thing that I want to put an end to. And so I want to know, well, like, how do we deal with that? How do we stop that from happening? And I would kind of agree with Katee that the bullying is not really the best answer. It's a shitty answer. It's an unethical answer. Weighing against the ethics of the damage Lav does versus the damage we do to her, I'm not sure which one outweighs what. I tend to lean toward that our unethical behavior is still not as unethical as hers, but I'm not. There's no real way to measure that. So I would like to find some way to address it that isn't an unethical bullying type of thing.
I mean, I feel like we already do this. We already have ways of dealing with this. This is why we
shoot
call
them. Is that what it is?
I'm
sorry. I meant in a video game. In a video CS:GO. I mean, in CS:GO,
we have something called canceling.
KD ratio.
Like, canceling somebody is where it's a ton of people denouncing somebody or something that they did all at once, right? If somebody says something incorrect, everybody denounces what they did, and then normally because they're denouncing the action, people end up denouncing the person, which turns into bullying and crap like that. But like, the bullying seems to be part of people saying, hey, I don't like this person, this is a bad person, they do bad things consistently, this is not somebody that we should all endorse. Like, that seems to be part of that seems to be part of the process to say, like, hey, they're doing things that are wrong, they're lying, they're spreading misinformation, and so we should all push back against this. You agree that that's part of the process, yes?
I agree that that's part of the process.
Okay, and do you think that that should not be part of the process?
No.
Okay, so we're all down with bullying. We all agree bullying is good.
I think it's an option.
I'm just saying, we're using the word bullying, but yeah, like, generally,
social pressure.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it is social pressure. We're calling it bullying, but generally, like, denouncing bad behavior is good. That seems to be what most everybody's doing. So when Lav says a bunch of transphobic stuff on Twitter, everybody quote tweets her and starts talking about how wrong she is, how crazy she is, how nobody should listen to her, how nobody should endorse these sorts of things. And it's part of the process of saying, hey, if you do this as well, if you also go out here and start saying transphobic stuff, you're going to have a mob of people coming after you and talking about how dumb you are too.
I would say the bullying part, because that's all critique and such.
There's some elements.
There's some elements of bullying that are part of that, but I would say what I did was definitely a form of bullying, where I got on the call with her and I said, "Oh, hold on. Let me think." I haven't talked much. Where I went on and I told her that she's a lolcow and that we're milking the hell out of her and it's going to be great. And tomorrow she's going to be in the drama cycle and we're going to milk the hell out of that. And then I'm going to milk her for mental illness. I would say that that is all me participating in bullying at that point. Like, that's because it's not me doing the social pressure thing in a more, critiquing way. It's me going, haha, you're fucking crazy, you're fucking loony, and I'm gonna chase you the fuck out of this space by milking the hell out of this, right?
Yeah,
so that is me engaging in bullying. Oh my gosh, Femoid is now in my chat.
I don't agree.
Now Lav is in my chat right now.
I don't agree with this framing that bullying is a type of social pressure. If you can't engage in social pressure that isn't bullying, I think it would be good if you learned how to do that. I don't think bullying, I don't think bullying is appropriate as a type of social pressure in most instances. I think we as a society, it'd be good if we weren't so okay with bullying.
So
See, I'm working on my language.
Yeah, so what is bullying then? Because when I'm talking about denouncing something and I'm saying that we should all put a stigma on people doing bad things and, like, denounce it altogether, where do we draw a line that says this is now bullying? If it's personal attacks, if it's attacks on immutable characteristics. Do you think what
Zonia did is bullying?
I think, well, so I think that if somebody's like making personal attacks at you, or they're engaging in a certain type of way, which Beamoid or Lav or whatever, I don't want to dead name her. I can't remember what she's going by this time.
Just say,
Is it dead naming?
Just say the retard. You can just say the retard, okay? So if we're all in the bullying mode, we can just say
bullying.
that.
I reject
it removes her name from it, so we don't smear her name. We just say the ambiguous retard, right? It's not direct.
Zonia, I think it would be good if you didn't participate in this behavior right now.
I thought it was perfectly opportune. What are you talking about?
I know it's yeah.
So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, but I'm saying like we stigmatize these behaviors.
I think Tom, I think the fact that Zonia herself said that she was clearly engaging in bullying, and you can't even call what Zonia did bullying, is highly emblematic to how in society we are really okay with bullying. And I think it'd be good if we weren't. I think that would be the ethically superior choice.
Do you think it's wrong to bully?
Yes.
Okay, so when you say it's wrong, you're not you're
making it prescriptive.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So
wait, so if I'm saying that it's wrong, are you now saying that is it a should statement? Because I'm specifically avoiding should statement right now.
Yes, I am saying that it's a should statement, but it doesn't matter.
So it feels, at that point, I'll have to say that that's kind of bad faith, because you're basically relegating me from being able to make any ethical critiques about anything, because I'm not allowed.
I'm saying that you can make should statements. I'm saying that, like, you can, and there's nothing wrong with making should statements. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that, like, yes, if we say something's wrong, we are saying you should not do this thing. And so, yeah, generally, like, it is a should statement. But I don't want to get into, Zonia's gonna freak out if we start talking about language, because she calls that the meta conversation.
Look, all you're doing when you get into the meta conversation, you're just proving to me why ableism is actually based and positive, because you two fucking autists going off on the meta conversation is causing all my goddamn chat to want to Roblox themselves, and probably your chats too. All right. So
my chat is fine.
You are the case. You are the case study for the positivity and benefit of ableism and bullying the neurodivergent. Okay.
Me and Tom have two chats, and they are fine with us doing this. You are the outlier.
Zonia has a low IQ chat,
so now here's the thing. I'll tell you why it is that I consider that particular type of behavior that I engaged in to be bullying. One was there was no real critique to it. Well, there's a little bit of critique, but it was such a hyperbolic approach to critique that I don't think it's going to actually communicate to Lav her mental retardation and why it is that she needs to go and, and get a lobotomy, for instance. But it serves really only to like shove her in a direction, like away from the space, to overwhelm her through a hyperbolic attack. Granted, she went that direction first and escalated first, so I responded that way.
Dude. Stop! You are not bullying her for like the good of the community. You're no superhero over here.
No, it's not for the good of the community.
That's what you're saying. Like, I'm pushing them out of the community.
No. I'm saying that
how good I am.
There's nothing heroic about it. Is that the person does damage. And so I want that person away, because if she does damage to some of the women in this space, she's going to do damage to more of the women in that space. That means me. That means Katee. That means other people. So it's self-preservation, as well as trying to also ensure that there's minimal damage done to the rest of the periphery of women, because that tends to be who she targets and tends to be who she does the most damage to. So that's sort of the approach. Okay, you're doing damage to people that are good people in this space with positive contributions to this space. Madame Genevieve, when has she been a problem, right? She's only really had positive contributions to this space, and yet Lav wants to do damage to her. So
if Lav thinks that she's doing damage because, Katee's all about the, what their morals are. So, if she thinks that Genevieve is doing damage by engaging in OnlyFans, which is a toxic website, which reels young women in and ruins their lives by getting them to, what do you call it? Anyways, you get what I'm saying.
She can't measure that damage. The damage she actually does to Madame Genevieve, we can measure. So that's what I would argue against that with. So now here's the thing. So what I do, yes, that is a form of bullying that I do. And the question is, should that be something we should engage in? And that's where I'm kind of like, it used to be that I was completely against any form of bullying. You know that, Tom, because that was like my whole falling out with Demon Mama's community, right? But as Katee had mentioned earlier, and I mentioned to her originally, I've been blackpilled on this space, and I'm kind of more leaning toward, okay, maybe some bullying isn't really that big of a deal. People are so fucking toxic in this space. We got people like Lav in here who just want to go and do damage to people, talk shit about people, make shit up about people, drop people's dirty secrets and shit like that out, all over the place. Is it wrong to bully the fucking shit out of a person like that to the point of even potentially damaging them? Is that actually wrong in light of the damage the measurable damage that person does to other people?
I think that when we talk about like measuring each situation, the easiest way to measure it is like how, I know it's corny, but like how far has this person like ripped the social contract up, and this person has shredded the social contract, so I don't really feel the need to fucking uphold it for them. I just don't. I've absolved myself morally of it. I'm not going to murder the person. I'm not going to seek to do them harm. But if I am in a position where I have to engage with this person, I'm not going to give them some extra level of respect. In fact, I'm probably going to give them less than I would a stranger. That's just the reality of it, because they've demonstrated a certain level of behavior that makes me less inclined to do so.
What's up, Steffi?
Yeah, it's just really that simple for me. The conversation's looped for a bit around, rhetoric and stuff, and that's fine.
My camera came out. Dang it.
Detract from that. I don't know what the fuck I want to do with that. But I don't know. For me, it's as simple as like when there's certain lines you can cross, and once you've crossed them, I really have no need to measure my actions. And yeah, it's that simple. I don't give certain people levels of dignity and respect. And I think that when we all realize that we do this, and you stop wearing the mask that you don't do this, it's just so much more satisfying to live a life like that. Like, so for example, the easiest way to illustrate it is like, people are like, oh, I don't judge, I'm not better than anyone. Fuck you. Yes, you do. You're better than murderers, and you know this. You're absolutely better than murderers. You're absolutely better than
Tom,
rapists.
Did your camera die or something?
Yes, my camera's messed up.
You know this to be true.
Parallax, what about you acknowledge that you do that sometimes too, but you say, I think I'd be a better person if I fought against that and tried my best not to.
I think that I could be a better person with less effort in more appropriate places. This is a perfectly fine characteristic.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
Well, I'll try.
So Portland is burning brought up an interesting thing. He said that this is the what I was stating. This is the no bad tactics, only bad targets argument that tends to be very leftist, which is true. I've criticized that before, which is the whole thing. It's like, leftists will oftentimes they'll completely shed all of their values as soon as they determine that somebody in their view is ontologically evil,
Twitter and mock him for what a savage he's been all day.
They'll do all the things that they think are detestable and wrong, and and against their values, just because they've deemed that person to be evil, and therefore you can do anything you want to them. The thing is, first of all, to keep in mind, I'm not somebody who goes around like I'm not a person who goes around doing the whole moral preaching and stuff and moral superiority thing. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I'm not like the morally superior leftist shaming everybody else for being morally inferior and calling everybody out for having the wrong values and stuff. I don't actually do that. I'm not a moral arbiter. So I'm not being contradictory by engaging in that, but I agree that that's actually a very good thing to point out, is that should I hold those values first and foremost, and then should I keep to those values with no double standards?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sorry.
But
I just want to explain real quick, because I see people like who seem to be very confused. When I'm like asking her about what she means by these specific words and like we're parsing that out, it is to find out what it is she means. Each time she tells me what it is she actually means by it, I'm ready to just move on and get past it. I'm not sitting there saying like, no, you can't say this because this is what it's supposed to mean. I'm not doing that. I'm just asking her what, like I'm explaining this is generally what people mean when they say this. And so I'm trying to figure out what it is she's trying to communicate when she uses specific words, just so I can understand what it is she's trying to say. I am not policing her to say you have to use it this way or that way. I'm just trying to understand better. And then on top of that, she also said that she wanted to like use words in a way that would communicate better what it is she's trying to say. And so I'm just letting her know like generally what it is people mean by these things. But I'm not saying
I think we all understand, but the more you retread the ground, the more you are proving my case that we need to bully the fuck out of neurodivergent people like you two. Okay. By the way, I'm actually neurodivergent. I'm both autistic, diagnosed, and I'm dyslexic, also diagnosed.
Yeah, well, I'm not a retard like you.
Sure,
Okay, you're calling me neurodivergent.
Wait, I just need to clarify. I am not neurodivergent. I don't have a diagnosis of neurodivergent.
You're autistic. Too bad. We're diagnosing you, all right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we are diagnosing you. This conversation has been so autistic.
Zonia, listen, I want the diagnosis. I feel like it's valid. I just like I don't want to lie.
Seizure for a bit.
This is the most fucking autistic meta conversation just a little bit ago, but it's okay. It's all right.
I just don't want to be accused that I said I have autism when I don't, right? Like,
okay, fair enough. But I said it. Everybody spread it around. Go to Twitter, put it out there. Katee is autistic. You can even say that she said it. I'm kidding. But anyways, go ahead.
Katie's
go
autistic.
Ahead.
Katee, 2023. Wait, Katie's autistic. Katee, 2023. Zonia, 2023.
All right. Did we lose Lav? Is she no longer in my chat? Lav, are you in there? Are you still hanging out in the Twitch chat? I have no idea. I think everybody chased her off. At some point, a whole bunch of people went after her. So. And well, did I stop my chat? Did I stop my chat? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead. There's somebody in here with the name Lav is Sad. I have no idea whose alt that is.
There is someone named Lav is Sad. That person, I'm pretty sure, is one of the Chatterino people we talked about earlier, because they show up pretty much anytime Lav does.
Oh, yeah. Are you Chatterinoing Lav? Lav is Sad? Fess up. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of like in this sort of in-between state, like should we bully, should we not? The conditions of the environment are pretty conducive to being pro-bullying because everything is very aggressive, very opinionated.
It's hard for me to say when you guys call it bullying. Like when people are making personal attacks against you, it seems like they're okay with personal attacks. Again, it seems like this is part of what it is that we're agreeing to. A lot of times when we come into this space, we're saying like, hey, you know, it's okay if you tackle somebody in a football game. Yes.
You know how you said that being able to read social cues properly is part of agreeing to engage in this space?
Katee?
I don't think I said that, but go ahead. As though I did.
Maybe Parallax did, and you shut up.
Katee?
So Tom, if I say, Tom,
I didn't run.
Tom,
I didn't run.
Your hat is really stupid. Like it looks stupid. Your black cap hat is really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That is me levying a personal attack.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you told me You, femoid piece of trash. I hope you get raped in the ass by everyone on this panel.
I disavow.
Roblox, I
Though
disavow.
she said that. That's not me.
I can't believe you just said that to Zonia.
This woman on woman violence. We really need to stop it. This is what misogyny is doing to us
fucking
and our
misogynist.
people.
Bullying
Our
Zonia
culture.
like that is messed up.
I disavow, Katie. Disavow.
We just got a
Hard
great
disavow
clip out
in
of
the
that.
strongest possible terms.
We got a great
These are
clip out of
against
that.
my
That's gonna
values.
be
Everybody
great.
clip it and ship it.
Yes, let's go.
Okay, go ahead, Katie.
Okay. So, are we all in agreement? That is not quite the same thing and maybe is completely disproportionate and not an appropriate way to behave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Proportionality
Awesome.
matters, yes.